box collapsed with a sharp cracked plastic snapping wood splintering right under her heel. I turned in time to see my son's model plane crushed flat on my own porch. She smiled. Before I could speak, a black pickup tore into my driveway. A man jumped out swinging a baton like he'd practiced this before. I blocked once. The baton hit the gravel. Then the siren screamed. Red and blue lights flooded my yard as deputies rushed in. Karen dropped into tears. Her husband groaned. Fingers pointed straight at me. "He attacked us," she cried. One deputy reached for his cuffs. I raised my hands and said one sentence. "There are cameras." Her face changed instantly, and that's when she whispered something that made my blood run cold. "Okay, next." She didn't knock. She didn't hesitate. She walked straight across my lawn like it already belonged to her, and stopped 10 feet from my porch, heels planted, chin raised, leather folder tucked under her arm like a badge. "Good morning," she said. Not friendly, not curious. Evaluating. "You must be the new occupant." I told her yes. Asked how I could help. She slid her sunglasses down just enough to look at me over the frames. "Karen Fowler, president of the High Pines Preserve Homeowners Association." The words hit wrong immediately. She opened the folder and held out a stack of papers thick with highlights and sticky notes. "Your property has recently been incorporated into our community boundaries. You're now subject to HOA regulations, vehicles, structures. Compliance starts today." I didn't take the papers. "This is unincorporated county land," I said. "Always has been." Her smile tightened. "That's not what the updated boundary map says." I pointed toward the end of my driveway. "Then your map's wrong, and you're trespassing." For the first time, her confidence cracked. Just a flicker, then it hardened. "You don't understand how this works," she said. "People who don't cooperate don't last long." That was the entitlement. Clean, sharp, used once. She turned and walked away, heels snapping against the gravel, and called back without looking at me. "We'll be seeing each other again." 3 hours later, she came back, and this time she brought a message meant to hurt. She came back fast. Not even 3 hours later, I heard the same sharp footsteps on gravel, confident, entitled, already angry. I stepped out of the garage, and there she was again. No sunglasses this time, face tight, jaw locked. "I'm not finished with you," Karen snapped. I told her to leave. Calm, clear, same as before. She ignored me and scanned the porch eyes, landing on a moving box beside the door. Blue marker, big letters, "Do not crush, model plane." She read it slowly. Then she looked up at me and smiled. Not friendly, not accidental, calculated. "Children need discipline," she said, lifting her foot. "Don't I warned, already stepping forward?" She pressed down anyway. The sound was small but violent, plastic, cracking balsa, wood snapping, something delicate collapsing into nothing. A broken wing slid out of the box and stopped against my boot. She stepped back like she'd crushed a soda can. "Guess he can build another one." Something cold settled behind my ribs. She turned and marched toward the U-Haul, reached for the ramp latch like it was hers to inspect. I moved between her and the truck, closed it, didn't touch her. She recoiled dramatically and shouted, "You assaulted me." Then her phone was already in her hand. As she started dialing, I understood this wasn't harassment. It was bait, and I was exactly where she wanted me. Her call hadn't even ended when the sound hit the road. An engine, low, aggressive, ripping up the gravel like it owned the place. A black pickup burst into view and slammed to a stop in my driveway, dust boiling up around it. The driver's door flew open. A man climbed out wearing a security jacket, broad shoulders, stretching the fabric, mirrored sunglasses hiding his eyes. He didn't ask what was happening. He already knew what story he was there to tell. "That him," he barked. Karen spun instantly, voice breaking on command. "Yes, he assaulted me. He blocked me, threatened me." The man didn't look at her arm, didn't check anything. His hand went straight to the baton on his belt and came out with it raised. "You think you can touch my wife?" he growled, closing the distance. I told him to leave, told him this was private property. He swung anyway. Not a warning, not a bluff. A full, reckless arc meant to break something. I stepped inside, it twisted his wrist, and the baton flew from his hand, clattering across the gravel. I backed away immediately, hands open, trying to de-escalate. Karen screamed like someone was being murdered. "He's attacking him. He's killing him." The man lunged again, grabbed my shirt, drove me backward into a stack of boxes. Glass shattered somewhere behind me. And then, everything changed. "Police, don't move." Red and blue lights flooded the yard as deputies sprinted in eyes, locking straight onto me. From where they stood, the system had already decided who the problem was. And Karen knew it. "Hands up. Turn around." The words landed heavy. Final. I raised my hand slowly. Karen collapsed into sobs behind me, clutching her arm like it had been shattered. Her husband hunched forward, breathing hard, playing the part of a man barely surviving an attack. From the deputy's angle, it worked. One of them stepped closer. I heard the click of cuffs shifting on a belt. That's when I said it. There's video. Karen snapped upright. He's lying, she said too fast. He threatened us. He planned this. I didn't move. Didn't turn. There are cameras on the garage and the porch. Full audio. Continuous recording. The older deputy hesitated. Just a fraction of a second, but enough. He reached into my pocket, pulled out the tablet, and the screen lit up. The first frame froze on the porch, the crushed box, the broken plane. Then it played. Karen marching across my lawn. Her smile, her foot coming down, her husband's truck screaming into the driveway. The baton, the swing, the disarm. Silence swallowed the yard. The deputy stopped the video and looked at the baton on the gravel, then at Karen. Her mouth opened, closed, opened again. That's taken out of context, she said, voice cracking. This property is part of our HOA. He knew the rules. That's when my lawyer's words from months ago came back to me. Maps don't lie, but people do. After the arrests, after the shouting faded, I learned why she'd been so desperate. The boundary map she'd waved that morning altered, shifted just enough to swallow my land. Not for rules, for expansion. My 20 acres sat between their neighborhood and a planned golf course entrance. And I wasn't just a homeowner who said no, I was the obstacle. The deputies didn't say much after that. They separated, everyone took statements, photographed the damage, and finally walked Karen and her husband toward the patrol car. The cuffs clicked shut while my kids watched from the window, frozen silhouettes behind the glass. That night, I didn't celebrate. I called my lawyer. Theo listened without interrupting. When I finished, he said one sentence that changed the temperature of the room. Send me the footage. All of it. An hour later, he was at my kitchen table with maps spread out like evidence from a crime scene. County zoning, tax parcels, HOA filings. He lined them up carefully, then slid Karen's boundary map on top. The line didn't match. Not close. It had been pushed nearly 80 yards, just enough to cross the creek and swallow my land. Theo tapped the paper once. This wasn't a mistake. This was a filing. He pulled another document. A proposed HOA expansion plan, Phase 2. Golf course access road. My property sat right in the middle of it. They can't annex you legally, he said, so they tried intimidation first. Compliance. Fear. When that failed, they escalated. The next morning, county offices confirmed it. The map Karen used was never approved. The filing timestamp didn't match public records. By afternoon, the word fraud started getting used out loud. Then, just before sunset, someone knocked on my door. Not a lawyer, not police. A maintenance worker from High Pines stood on the porch shaking, holding out a small flash drive. I shouldn't be here, he whispered. But what she did to you, it's all on record. He pressed the drive into my hand and walked away. And I knew the line had been crossed for all of them. I didn't plug the flash drive into my main laptop. I used an old junk one, the kind you don't cry over if it gets bricked, and sat at the kitchen table with the lights low like I was about to open a confession. One file. Board meeting buffer zone, July 14. I clicked play. Karen's face appeared first, crisp blazer, perfect posture, that same smile she wore when she crushed my kid's plane, only now she was surrounded by the board. 4 members, tired eyes, tight mouths, and one man labeled vice president who spoke like he'd done this before. Karen cleared her throat. We need the buffer properties handled. If we don't lock them in, the golf expansion is dead. The vice president leaned forward. Then file the boundary shift before the homeowner notices. Most won't fight. If they do, drain them. Someone on the board hesitated. Isn't that illegal? He shrugged. It's paperwork. And pressure. They fold. Karen nodded once cold. Start with the new guy on the hill. He looks stubborn. They laughed. I didn't. The meeting kept going. Fees, compliance, strategy, legal fund talk, who to target, how to bury complaints with notices until people gave up or sold. It wasn't an HOA meeting. It was a playbook. My phone buzzed while the recording was still running, Theo texting, "Send it now." Before I could reply, another notification popped up, an email from an address I didn't recognize. Subject line, final, notice immediate compliance required. Attached a PDF stamped with my name and a brand new boundary map, different from the last one, bolder, cleaner, like they'd improved the lie overnight. At the bottom was a line that made my stomach go tight. Non-compliance will be met with enforcement at 9:00 a.m. I stared at the time. It was already 8:37. I looked out the window toward the road, and right then I saw a convoy turning the bend slow, deliberate, like they'd been coming the whole time. They didn't knock. 3 county vehicles rolled up and stopped in a line at the edge of my drive. Not rushing, not flashing lights, controlled, official, the kind of arrival that makes everyone straighten their spine. Karen stepped out of the lead SUV like she was late to a meeting she still believed she ran. Clipboard back in hand, chin high, confidence rehearsed. "This homeowner has refused lawful compliance," she announced loudly, making sure the neighbors drifting closer could hear. "We're here to enforce HOA jurisdiction." I stood on the porch, said nothing. A county official stepped forward and asked for the boundary filing number. Karen hesitated just long enough. She recovered fast. "It's been submitted, pending approval." "That's not what we're showing," the official replied. Her smile tightened. "Then your system is behind." That's when another car door opened. A sheriff stepped out holding a folder thick with paper, and one unmistakable item on top, a flash drive. He looked at Karen, then at the crowd gathering. "Before anyone enforces anything," he said, "we're going to review some evidence." Karen's grip on the clipboard went white, and for the first time, she didn't control the room. The sheriff didn't raise his voice. He didn't have to. He held up the flash drive. "This came from inside your board," he said, eyes never leaving Karen. "We verified the source." Murmurs rippled through the small crowd. A county official connected a tablet to the hood of a cruiser and hit play. Karen's face appeared on screen, same blazer, same posture, sitting in a board meeting. Her voice carried clearly, "We'll shift the boundary first. If the homeowner fights, we drain him." The video rolled on. Talk of forged filings, pressure tactics, targeting buffer properties. My land highlighted in red. Someone in the crowd whispered, "That's illegal." The official swiped to the next file, 2 maps side by side, the real county boundary, then Karen's version. The difference was undeniable. The sheriff turned to her. "You want to explain why your filing doesn't match county records?" Karen opened her mouth. Nothing came out. Her husband shifted behind her. A board member stepped away like he didn't want to be seen standing too close. The sheriff nodded once. "All right." He closed the tablet. "That's enough." And that's when Karen finally realized this wasn't an HOA meeting anymore. Karen found her voice again, but it came out wrong, too sharp, too rushed. "This is being taken out of context," she snapped. "HOAs adjust boundaries all the time. We were acting in the community's best interest." The sheriff didn't argue. He turned the tablet back toward her and tapped one line of the transcript. "File it before he notices." "Is that your voice?" he asked. Karen's jaw tightened. "I don't recall." "That's enough," the county official said. 2 deputies stepped forward. Karen looked around, searching for support, neighbors, board members, her husband. No one met her eyes. One board member quietly set his folder on the ground and backed away. The cuffs came out. "You're being detained for fraud, filing false instruments, and conspiracy to unlawfully annex property," the sheriff said calmly. Karen's confidence collapsed in real time. Her shoulders sagged. Her voice dropped. "You don't understand," she whispered. "This whole place depends on me." "No," the sheriff replied. "It depended on lies." Her husband protested. "Once. Weak. Late." He was cuffed next. As they were led away, the crowd stayed silent, not shocked, not angry, just watching a system fall apart in daylight. I didn't cheer. I just stood there, hands at my sides, as the land finally stopped being contested. No one spoke right away. The engines idled. The deputies guided Karen and her husband toward the vehicles. Doors closed, not slammed, just shut, firm and final. The crowd that had gathered stood there like they'd just woken up from a long, shared bad dream. Then things shifted. A man I'd never met nodded at me once. A woman across the road whispered, "I knew something was wrong." Another neighbor stepped closer and said quietly, "She did this to my parents too." I felt my shoulders drop for the first time all day. Not relief, exactly release. Like my body finally understood it didn't have to stay braced. Behind me, the front door creaked open. My kids stood there, cautious watching. I gave them a small nod. It was okay. The danger had passed. They didn't smile, but they relaxed, and that was enough. The yard felt different now. Lighter. The same gravel, the same trees, but without pressure in the air. For the first time, since moving in, the quiet came back. Not the fragile kind, the honest kind. The confirmation came right there in the driveway. A county official stepped forward, phone on speaker, and read directly from an email that had just landed. The boundary filing submitted by High Pines Preserve was officially rejected, marked fraudulent, flagged for audit. All annexation attempts tied to this HOA are suspended effective immediately, he said, voice steady. Any enforcement actions taken on unincorporated land are void. Someone behind me let out a quiet breath. Someone else laughed once, short and disbelieving. The sheriff added one more line, looking straight at me. Your property is confirmed outside HOA jurisdiction, permanently. No future reclassification without your written consent, a third-party survey, and county approval. That weight I'd been carrying finally slid off. Karen's name, the HOA's name, the board members, all of it was already being forwarded to the district attorney. Fraud. False filings. Abuse of authority. The words weren't dramatic. They didn't need to be. Paperwork doesn't shout. It ends things. The official tapped his phone off, tucked it away, and nodded once. You're clear, Mr. Burke. For the first time since this started, the law wasn't a threat. It was a shield. No one rushed off when it was over. The officials packed up slowly. Neighbors lingered. Conversation stayed low, respectful, like people were careful not to break something fragile that had just been restored. I walked to the end of the driveway while they were still there. That afternoon, I planted the post I'd already set in concrete earlier that week. Heavy steel bolted down for good. The sign slid into place with a solid thud. Private property, no HOA trespassing, nothing flashy, nothing angry, just facts. The sheriff glanced at it, nodded once, and said, "That'll save you a lot of trouble." Behind me, my son came out holding the broken pieces of his model plane in both hands. He didn't look upset anymore, just thoughtful. I knelt beside him and told him we'd rebuild it. Stronger this time. Better materials. Better wings. He nodded like he understood more than just airplanes. As the last county vehicle rolled away, the wind moved through the pines again, steady and calm. The same breeze from that first morning, but now it stayed. I stood there on my land, 20 acres of it quiet and uncontested, and for the first time in years, nothing felt like it was about to be taken. Some people think power comes from clipboards and threats, until they meet someone who knows exactly where their property line ends.